Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today is Friday, June 28th, 2019. And let's find out what's going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness. At this point, I think most bodybuilding fans are all in agreement that this year's 212 Olympia will be one of the most anticipated events in the history of the division. Between this being the first year post-Flex Lewis, the rush for the title, the rise of Derek Lunsford, not to mention the return of Eduardo Correa, throw all that into one pot and you've got a recipe for something special. But one guy we won't see on this stage is Nicolas Vullioud, who announced recently that he was making a business decision to sit out of this year's event. Now, whether or not Nick would have been a title contender is probably up for debate. But you can't deny that he was star power, and that means there's a spot in the top 10 that's suddenly up for grabs. Speaking of big name guys pulling out of this year's Olympia, it looks like the classic physique division will be down a title contender now that Steve Laureus is officially taking himself out of the equation. A few weeks ago, we heard some talk that Steve and his camp were thinking about shutting things down for the season. But now it looks like that's starting to look more and more like a reality. Steve was absolutely awesome at the Arnold back in March, but it seems like his focus now is on winning major titles. So if he needs to take a few months off from competing to get his body in a position to do that, I say more power to you. If at first you don't succeed, then try again. It might be an age-old adage, but it still seems to be working for fitness standout Mara Brown. This week, Brown and her team released some new updates less than 2 weeks out from her season debut at the Chicago Pro, where she'll be looking to settle on some unfinished business she had with her runner-up performance last year. Brown is one of those fitness athletes who's sneaky good, but somehow always manages to fly way under the radar. But if she shows up in the Windy City packing her A game, she could easily walk out of there with another Olympia bid in her back pocket. Usually the 212 lineup at the Chicago Pro has a few surprises in store for us, and I'm sure third-year man John Jewett is hoping that he's the one making the delivery this year. Earlier in the week, new update photos began to leak out from sources inside the Jewett camp that show their guy hanging on to some pretty solid conditioning to go along with one of the more complete looks he's ever had. John's never placed outside of the top 7 in his entire pro career, and I don't see any reason why that should change here. So if he delivers on his end, I can see him possibly pushing for a top 5 finish. Usually I try to avoid Las Vegas in the middle of the summer because it's the second hottest place in the universe next to hell. But now that I know Bojana Vasiljevic will be there in rare form, I might have to reconsider and book myself a last-minute flight. A few days, someone inside Bojana's team released a new update from day 1 of her depletion plan for this weekend's Battle in the Desert, where she's coming in as one of the early favorites to contend for the win. These are usually the kind of shows where we see someone like Bojana coming in and kicking butt. So as long as she can pull it all together in time, I'd expect her to be in the first call-out fighting for the win. And that does it for yet another edition of Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, reminding you to always be true to your passions, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.